What's going on, everybody? This is Afro Think Tank. Black man says Greek philosophy is a misnomer, and that is 100% a historical fact. You see, white people find great pride in Greek philosophy. They based their entire Western culture off Greek philosophy. They talk about the great Greek teachers who taught and civilized other Europeans and got them to think about the sciences, got them to come out of their primordial thinking into the sciences and thinking about space and thinking about social studies and social sciences, the arts, the scholastic arts. But here's the thing. Every single Greek philosopher that is considered the father of science, of the scientific method, the people they give all academia credit for, every single one of these Greek men, notice I didn't say white men, because these Greek men would not have been considered white. These Greek men would have been closely related to me than any white Anglo-Saxon barbarian that is currently cosplaying right now, as they are the progenitors of those Greek societies, which in fact they're the Visigoths, all right, who came and destroyed the Greek and the Roman Mediterranean societies. And when they did that, they fell into a dark age where someone, never reminded them that they should probably take a bath, and they almost killed themselves twice when left to their own devices. That's a fact. Every single one, and listen, you can't argue this. This is not an opinion. Every single Greek philosopher that brought anything to the Western world, that the Western world bases every single thing, their whole point of pride, every single one of those Greek philosophers were African students. Every single one of them got all, not some, all of their information from schools within Africa, from black African teachers who taught them. You see, science and philosophy and all of that started in Africa. I understand white people still use cognitive dissonance today to pretend like they started anything. White people have never started anything. They've only participated later, once they were taught. That is the truth. They've never been the progenitors of any educational, scholastic, anything. They've been the students and recipients of African scholars, African teachers, African philosophers, African griots. All of these Greeks traveled to Africa and sat in the museums of Africa. You see, museums, the term museum used to be a term where you would go, that was like the university. Before museums became where white people displayed their rape, murder, and pillage goods and plunder to the world, a museum was a place of learning where you went to read books and scrolls, where you went to have discussions about philosophy, about science, about space. White people still forget, or they don't forget, they know, but they still pretend like the Dogon tribe did not discover the solar system, the planets, galaxies, and various other things in space before any white European ever had the thought to think that the planet was more than a flat disk, right? That was the center of the universe. Everything, all credit, all Greek accomplishments is credited to Africans. As a matter of fact, white people even designed their capitals and cities like if it was like a carbon copy of the Romans and the Greek empires and city-states. But it doesn't take that much research, because I'm a historian, right? To know for a fact, because this is 100% a fact, that what you consider Greek architecture, okay, with long pillared buildings, like the White House, like the Capitol, like the Lincoln Memorial, like the big black penis called the goddamn Washington Monument, that's really a Tekken, okay? A obelisk, all right? All of that is African. If you go to Africa, you will see pillars, buildings that remind you of Washington, D.C., of France, of England. All those, these white people been cosplaying us 100% for thousands of years. But here's the thing, we gave that to the Greeks. The Greeks were appreciative. The Greeks weren't racist. We talk about the Greeks. We taught the Greeks. All Greek gods are African gods, modified to look like them. All Greek mythology is African mythology. All Roman mythology is repurposed Greek mythology. All current European mythology is repurposed Roman mythology, that's repurposed Greek mythology that was gifted theology from Africans. So, as much as white people would like to give credit to the Greeks, who in fact are not them, because you guys are not the same. You are not them. You are not the Greeks. You are not the Romans. You Anglo-Saxon, barbarian, Francophone, savage barbarians destroyed Rome. You sacked it. It's documented history. Now, we know you white people like to take credit for everybody else's shit. All right? You guys are famous for taking credit for everybody else's shit. All right? But in the age of information, we're not going to let you take credit for everybody's shit anymore. Them days is over, okay? The glory days of you being able to live in the cesspool of your nasty, disgusting, unhygienic lies is over. Because the truth cannot be hidden for very long. The truth always comes out. Because the truth is stronger than your lies. Anyway, you tell me what you think about this in the comment section. This Afro Think Tank. Learn something, teach something. I'm out.
In 1954, a black professor opened a book with one sentence that nearly got him erased from history. The term Greek philosophy, he wrote, is a misnomer. Now sit with me for a minute, because before I tell you what he said, you need to understand exactly what he was aiming at. Every philosophy department on earth starts in the same place. Intro to Western Civilization class. Every course on logic, on ethics, on political theory. It all opens with the same three names: Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. Aristotle taught Alexander the Great. Plato's Republic is still assigned in law schools, deciding what justice even means. The scientific method: observe, define, categorize, reason from first principles, traces back to Aristotle's own notebooks. Democracy itself, as an idea, gets traced back to Athens. The whole architecture of Western thought, government, science, ethics, logic, sits on a foundation poured by these three men. And the whole world spent 2,000 years calling them the fathers of it. Not contributors, not students, fathers. As in, it started here. As in, nothing came before. That's not a small claim. That's the master story. That's the one taught at Oxford and at Harvard and in every high school textbook from Toronto to Tokyo. Civilization as we know it was fathered in Athens. So when a man stands up in 1954 and says the phrase, Greek philosophy doesn't describe what actually happened, he's not making an academic footnote. He's putting his hands on the load-bearing wall of the entire Western story and asking, what happens if we pull it out? That's the size of the question George G.M. James was actually asking. Born in Guyana, trained in Greek and Latin at the Durham University in England, doctoral work at Columbia, and by the early 1950s, he's teaching philosophy at a small black college in Arkansas, Jim Crow, Arkansas. reading the same Greek texts every white classics professional in the country was reading in the original language, closer than most of them ever got. And he asked the one question the whole field was built to never have to answer. Who taught the teachers? Here's what's not up for debate. Herodotus, the Greek father of history himself, wrote that geometry came out of Egypt, born from surveying the Nile floods. Plato, in his own dialogue, has an Egyptian priest look at a Greek visitor and say, "You Greeks are but children." Not an enemy said that about Greece. A Greek said it about himself in his own writing 700 years before anybody called it Afrocentric to say. So James takes that thread and pulls it all the way through. In Stolen Legacy, James lays out Egypt's mystery system, mathematics, astronomy, medicine, and a philosophy for the soul centuries before Athens even stood. And he makes the case that the men history crowns the fathers of philosophy, Thales, Pythagoras, Plato, walked into these temples as students long before the world ever called them teachers. Even know thyself, the line every Philosophy 101 class hangs on Socrates like he invented it, James traces back further to the temple long before it ever touched a Greek tongue. Sit with what this means if it's partly true. It doesn't just add a footnote to history, it flips it. The quote-unquote fathers of Western civilization become, at best, the best students Egypt ever produced. And at worst, the men who took the diploma and erased the school's name off of it. It's not a footnote. That's the whole foundation of who gets to say, we built this, moved to a different name. Now, yes, the book rattled the academy so hard that scholars have argued over every page of it for 70 straight years. That's not a strike against it. That's what a book does when it makes people who've never had to defend their version of history actually defend it. And here's what survives every one of those arguments. Egypt was old and deep and mathematically ahead, while Greece was still scattered villages. And the Greeks said so themselves, with nobody holding a gun to their head. Now, if this is the first time you're realizing the whole father of Western civilization story might be resting on an unpaid debt, hold that thought. I'm coming back to it because you need this one in your hands, not just in your ears. And James paid a price of his own for asking it. 3 weeks after his book found its way into the world, James checked into a hospital in Nashville. 3 weeks later, he was gone. For 70 years, folks said he was silenced, and somebody made sure that question died with him. A historian finally pulled his death certificate a few years ago. Gastric cancer. No violence, no cover-up needed. Because the truth is, nobody had to silence him. The Academy just did what it always does to a question that threatens its entire foundation. It stopped talking about it and hoped you would too. They didn't have to bury the man. They just had to bury the question. All right. I told you I'd come back. The book is Stolen Legacy by George G.M. James, 70 years old, still in print, still getting passed from hand to hand, because the people it was written for never stopped needing it, even when the Academy pretended it never existed. This is the book that made classic professors have to defend out loud, in public, on debate stages, why father of Western civilization gets to stay on the label at all. That's not a footnote. That's the whole reason this book still matters 70 years later. Check my bio. Tap the second link. Got an Audible trial available? The full audiobook is yours, free, the second you tap it. Already used your trial? The same link sends you straight to Amazon. Same link, 2 doors. One book that put the whole Western story on trial and never got its verdict read out loud. Don't let this be another one you meant to get. Get it tonight. A man asked one question in 1954 that threatened who gets to be called the father of everything. He didn't live to see it argued over in front of 500 people at a university, or tested against DNA in a lab, or debated on a phone screen in your hand right now. But the question outlived him. That's what a real question does. Ask the ones big enough to flip the script. Let the answer outlive you too.
Every accusation is a confession. I will not elaborate.
Black power in the Mississippi Delta. Black power when Mary sings shelter. Pulling up in the streets of Kampala. There's a calling for the sons and the daughters. Black power on the surface of the moon. Black power in Jesus' tomb. Breaking bread, collard greens with my suya. Feet stomp and praise the Lord, hallelujah. I come from the beginning of sound and time.
Free Sudan! Boycott diamonds and gold! Free Sudan! Boycott diamonds and gold! We most definitely cannot forget about the people of Sudan!
Thanks for watching Afro Think Tank. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And follow me on Substack and Patreon for more content. Remember, it's Pan-Africanism or nothing.